Now it's time for our another interesting session on demystifying generative AI. Dear participants, it is an absolute honor to introduce our distinguished chief guest for today's webinar, Dr. Sanmitra Sarkar, GM AI and Analytics at IBM. With over 18 years of expertise, Dr. Sarkar is a thought leader and innovator in artificial intelligence and generative AI. Currently leading generative AI projects at IBM, his journey spans over 11 years, where he is emerged as a pioneer in managing multiple projects and RFPs. Dr. Sanmitra's expertise extends into cutting-edge concepts in generative AI, including retrieval augmented generation, prompt engineering, and extensive work on large language models. Beyond IBM, he has been played as a key roles at TCS, HSBC, and Nelson, manufacturing, and also like managing multi-million-dollar projects across diverse industries. Dr. Sanmitra is not just a practitioner, but also an innovator with 10 patent filings and accolades like the IBM Orion Award. As an academician, he shares his knowledge as an adjunct faculty at institutions like IIFT, IBS, and BIMS. Today, we have the privilege of delving into the insights and experience of a true visionary and leader in the field of artificial intelligence. Please join me in extending a warm welcome to Dr. Sanmitra Sarkar as we embark on a journey of knowledge and innovation. Without further ado, let's give a virtual round of applause to our esteemed chief guest. Now, let's welcome Dr. Sanmitra Sarkar to share his provoking thoughts on demystifying generative AI. Thank you for being with us, Dr. Sanmitra, sir. Welcome you, sir.
Hey, thanks. Let me share my screen.
Yes, sir.
Let me know if you can see it. I have a little bad throat.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It is visible, sir. We can go with.
Sure. Yeah, so I think this slide has already been covered by the previous speaker, Karthik sir, but I would like to touch upon a couple of things that this AI terminology was first given by John McCarthy in 1956, which was the first conference of artificial intelligence at Dartmouth College in Europe. But even before that, during the Second World War, the first usage of artificial intelligence came into existence. And thereby, there were various types of other things that came across over the last 50 to 60 years. And definitely, one of the important things, as even mentioned by the previous speaker, is in 2022, when OpenAI came up with this ChatGPT. It actually started this journey of generative AI among the common people. So now moving on, so artificial intelligence is any technique that enables computers or any machines to mimic human intelligence. This is the superset of machine learning and deep learning. So machine learning is a subset of artificial intelligence, and deep learning is a subset of machine learning. So what is machine learning then? If AI is just a technique to mimic human intelligence, machine learning is a subset which uses statistical techniques and other mathematical and machine learning techniques to improve a particular task at hand. And then if we go into the deep learning, this is like it works like our uh, neurons and dendrons. So it is basically tries to identify the root cause of the problem. So it goes absolutely at the deepest level and try to resolve that a problem. And a problem is not always a single layer. It has multiple layers. So it identifies those multiple layers and goes deep into the branches of those multiple layers and tries to identify the problem at the very root, and it sends back that information back to the original model. So it works like a neuron dendron type of thing. So that is why the neural network, this particular term came from that. And basically deep learning is about all those things, combination of all those things. So this is how you should remember that This is deep learning is a subset of machine learning, and machine learning is a subset of artificial intelligence. I'll talk about the top 5 AI trends, which has been discussed from the similar timeline of 2022 when this ChatGPT came on. So, which is parallelly going with this large language model development, is that computer vision is said to grow, boost in the autonomous vehicle industry. Chatbot and virtual assistants are getting smarter, solutions for metaverse, and improve language modeling. So I'll just give example of what is exactly is a computer vision system. So computer vision system is just like your human vision system. Human vision system, there is a picture where we are seeing that there is a bowl of fruits. Now we have a sensory organ called eye, which looks it at the bowl, and it captures the image, and it goes to our brain, and brain interprets that this is a bowl of bananas, tangerines, lemons, and peaches, so a bowl of fruits. So you have to have individual components like we have here in the human vision system. So the sensory device, there should be a sensory device like eye to capture the image. So we use a camera to do that. Now we have to have an interpreting device like a brain to interpret that those different objects which I can see in the image. So we use computer, laptops, and various other interpreting device to do that, so that that particular interpreting device can also say that it's a bowl of bananas, lemons, peaches, and tangerines, like a bowl of fruits. So this computer vision is set to grow, because why? You go anywhere now, you see that if you have to pass a particular secure place, there are biometric mechanism that is in place. Even in offices and institutions, you have to have some biometric system to register the attendance. How they identify? They look at your retina, they take your fingerprints and all those things. So uh, this is going to improve. Now if a person just crosses a particular system either allows or disallows. So if you go in Europe, there are multiple such areas where you do not have to press anything, or you do not have to swipe your cards. If you just pass by a particular place, uh, there would be acceptance or rejection, whether you'll be allowed to enter that place or you would be rejected to enter the place. How they do that? Again, simple computer vision. There are recordings that how your face looks like. There is a face recognition, and from there they identify, okay, this particular person has the authority to enter into this particular place. So moving forward in a smarter place, smarter world, definitely computer vision is set to grow. If you see the Gartner is a kind of a magazine which so always gives this kind of a direction that where the industry is going, where the technology is going. In 2021 itself, it said that there would be highest planned investment in computer vision projects, and that is what we are seeing in the last 3 4 years. Now second is the autonomous vehicle. Autonomous vehicle is another very good example how AI has developed. So from level 0 to level 5 is the ultimate reach of autonomous vehicle. So level 0 is there is no autonomy, but level 5 is it would be a completely driverless car. There is no restriction, and a car can go anywhere. So there is no place of even a steering or a brake. That would be done solely by the car itself, car's machine itself. And you just you have a sofa or something like that inside the car to sit and relax and give instruction to the cars to go from one place to the other. So where we are with respect to these different levels, if you have heard the company Tesla of Elon Musk, it has already crossed level 3 and it is testing at the level 4. And if you talk about the Indian context, we have already reached up to the level 2. Even the meat segment, for example, companies like Morris Garage, MS Hector, MS Aster, then sorry, MG Hector, MG Aster. Then you have various other cars. Of course, the high-end cars like Mercedes and BMW have the parking assist facility. You do not have to have park your car yourself. You can just ask the give a command to the voice command to the car, and it would be automatically parked. There are cruise controls. If you are running through a highway, if you ask that if you choose the cruise control option, you do not have to press the accelerators or the steering wheels. It would be automatically controlled. So we, even in the Indian market, we are at the level 2, and already in the developed market, level 3 has been crossed, and we are almost at the level 4. So we are not very far away of reaching this level 5, where we'll see no drivers are running our cars. So this is another area where there are projections that there are 150, almost close to $150 billion were invested in 2022. So what would happen? Not only the companies like Ford, companies like GM, companies like Mercedes are working in this space, but technology companies, Google is coming up with a car. So see the change, that automobile cars were developing the cars, but now even the simple technology companies are also doing the same. So this is another change. We already have talked about the chatbots. So chatbots, how you kind of talk with the different companies, customer service. So previously we used to have human agents who are actually replying to our queries. But what was the problem? It was only between a certain time, because one person cannot work 24 hours a day. So the customer service was for say 8 hours, 10 hours, 12 hours. So between 10 a.m. and even if you go to some of the sites, even today, you will see that we can answer your question between 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. because it is being answered by the actual human agent. This slowly and gradually would be fully replaced by machines and chatbots, who this is called conversational AI space, where it would be automatically done. It is already being done using simple traditional AI, but generative AI has also come here, where generative, for example, IBM had a tool called Watson Assistant. Now it is called Watson X Assistant, because Watson X is our generative AI tool. So it is infused by Watson X or the generative AI capabilities. What is the help? So previously, this chatbots could answer some simple queries. It has a boundary that you could ask only 10-15 types of question, and there are different types. So basically, you have asked a question, and the chatbot could understand that the meaning of this question is something. So they had been trained with this kind of 15-20 different scenarios. Now, with the help of generative AI, it can answer any type of question. It is not always have to work within that boundary, because with the help of LLM and generative AI, they can search for what could be the possible replies. It dig through the different system it has access to, the internal system. Of course, it already has the access to the internet. If that kind of question is asked, it will definitely be able to answer. Even for the internal queries which you have in some internal database, it can search and answer you back. So that is the beauty of using generative AI in the chatbots. Of course, there are multiple investment in this space as well. Metaverse is another area where, so we were talking about the different patents I have. So one of them is actually couple of them is related to the metaverse and how we will interact with the metaverse, how the advertisement can be measured. What is the effectiveness of advertisement in a meta world? So meta world is basically a world where you are using AR and VR technology. So It's a virtual reality, augmented reality kind of a situation where you immerse into that particular environment with the virtual reality, augmented reality equipments, and there the opportunities of AI are much more, because you can, one is how better experience you can give to the users of the metaverse, as well as how you can do I gave example of advertisement. I can talk about many other things like what should be the gaming experience, how can improve the gaming experience inside a metaverse. So you can see this customer service, training, events, sales, trading. There can be lot many types of offerings that you can have in the metaverse. So it is also likely to grow. So that is why in 2020, Mark Zuckerberg rebranded Facebook as Meta, because he sees a very good opportunity here for Facebook to do something. And of course, we are talking about large language and foundation models, which is set to grow. So basically, if you are talking about these foundation models or large language models, how they have, uh, what was the journey? So in advanced analytics, we started with the step-by-step and logic and instruction coded by human developers. It is very deterministic. Machine learning, human crafted features with supervised learning to analyze data for a specific task, like predicting which particular customer would default in a credit card payment, pricing optimization, and so on and so forth. Deep learning was kind of using not only the supervised but unsupervised learning, where AI is fed into outcomes and data to create rules and algorithms like image recognition, autonomous driving, etc. Now, in the foundation models, it is another type of unsupervised AI that ingests massive amount of data. So when you are talking about GPT 4.0, which is now into existence, uses 175 billion parameters. So parameters are not records. Parameters are basically your features, or if you are thinking about an Excel file, your columns are your parameters. So GPT 4.0 has been developed using 175 billion such parameters. So it is trained, or it is pre-trained on so many parameters. That is why it can handle any kind of questions, any type of problems. So where to use traditional AI capability? So is traditional AI is going to sunset? The answer is no, because generative AI definitely can do most of this task itself. But if you are looking for higher accuracy, it can you can and it is, if it is for say quantitative data, definitely traditional AI should be preferred, because you are talking about higher accuracy, as well as you are talking about quantitative data where the accuracy would be much more. But if it is text, if it is a specific use case like summarizing the text content, so, doing a conversational search, for example, I ask something and it searches. Content creation, as Karthik sir was talking about, code creation. Now you want to create a code out of a business requirement. Your client has said that. So one of the questions in the previous session was, what is the impact on the software development? One of the major component is how you develop your code. So that is being done by generative AI. In IBM, we are doing this kind of use cases now, like code generation, code conversion, test case generation. So perhaps in future, in very near future, many testers would not be needed. So yes, there is a chance that there would be loss of jobs. So there is a concern, or there is a question in many areas whether there would be reduction of jobs because of the advent of generative AI. Yes, definitely. But at the same time, there would be new jobs created because of this generative AI. If you can learn the generative AI, there are multiple types of jobs in the generative AI sector itself. For example, prompt engineers. For example, of course, the data scientist. Then people who understand what kind of problems. So architects or generative AI architects who can understand that what kind of business problems can be addressed to Gen AI. So there can be lot many those kind of roles which are being created already into existence or will come in future. So as when computer was invented, there was a shock, there was a surprise that what would happen to the job market, because there were very many clerical jobs which gone away because of the invention or the usage of the computers. Similarly, there would be many mundane jobs which can be automated, uh, are at risk. So what would be my suggestion, or what would be anybody in the working in this area, what would be their suggestion is that you have to constantly develop yourself if you want to sustain in a technology industry. Not only in technology, even it has impact in multiple other industries like telecom and others. So what you need to do, you always need to learn. So you should not think that I have learned this technology, suppose a technology A, and it will serve me my lifetime. That is not going to happen. So you have to be adaptive. You have to learn the new technologies in the whatever comes in every 3 4 5 years. There would be change. Today is generative AI. 5 years, 10 years down the line, there would be another technology which is going to impact us. So that is why you have to. So you have to understand what are the traditional AI capabilities which still can exist. For that, you have to know what is traditional AI. You have to know a little bit of machine learning. So definitely going directly generative AI is also fine. Some people are doing that, but if you have some background of artificial intelligence and machine learning, that is definitely going to help you learn generative AI better. Now moving on. So why this? What are the other advantages? So you already have done some massive pre-training using the huge corpus you had. So there is, for your particular purpose, suppose you have a problem at hand, for example, a code generation project. You need not spend so much time. The development life cycle has been reduced. So earlier, which used to take say 4 months 6 months to develop a particular solution for a project, it has now come down to 2 months. So now the expectation from the client or expectation from your users have become even higher, that they expect that what you have developed earlier in 6 months, you can do it in 2 months or 3 months. So that is also a challenge for you guys as well. So, why this improvement has happened? Because you do not need specific labeling. So it is a decrease of 10 to 100 times in labeling requirements. Labeling means what is this particular data we have, what should be the target variable, what should be my response variable. So label the each and individual data elements in your data set. So basically what it has done, if it is almost 10 to 100x decrease in labeling requirements, it is actually 6 times decrease in training time. Do not need to spend much time on training the uh, different models. Earlier, it used to take, say, suppose 3 months to train a particular model, 1 month to do a training. Now it is in few days you can do that particular things. So rapid adaptation to multiple tasks with small amount of task specific data. So now you do not need thousands or lakhs or millions of data to train your model. Your model is already pre-trained. I talked about GPT-4, which is already pre-trained with 175 billion parameter. There is a model called Llama, which has been developed by Facebook or Meta, but now it is available open source. It is built on 70 billion parameters, and there are multiple others. So there is a Google model which is coming up, which is developed on 1 trillion uh, parameters, 1 trillion parameters. So you can understand it already has extensive knowledge. So suppose you want to develop a particular model for your purpose, you just take one of these foundational large language model and give some example, give some star specific data, and it will be adapted to answer to your particular query. So it is always better to give some example. If you are giving a few example, it is called zero shot to few shot prompts. Few shot meaning basically you are giving few examples. So suppose you have given 5 examples, so it's a 5 shot prompting. So and if you have not given any example, that is called a zero shot prompting. So you have to give some prompt. This is the methodology is called prompt tuning, where you are giving some examples. Now in fine tuning, I'll go into that. There you are not only giving few example, you are actually training your data with respect to your data, a large language model. But a large language model has multiple layers. Suppose it has say few hundred layers, and when you fine tune, it is actually affecting one of the few last layers. So suppose it has 100 layers, then it will affect your last 10-15 layers, so that the weight gets changed for a particular purpose of your problem. You have a problem at hand that I want to generate test cases for a particular case, say suppose in SAP. So if you give some SAP data and how those test cases are right now, if you give that kind of example, a data set with all those SAP requirements versus the SAP test cases, and then you tune your model. So basically you are changing the weights for the last few layers. And whenever you prompt that, can you generate the test cases for this data or this particular requirement document, it will give you much better output than without those fine-tuned models, without those examples. So this is how the large language model works. So traditionally, AI models were doing one particular task. You have one model to do one particular task. Model 1, task 1, model 2, task 2, model 3, task 3. Whereas foundation model can address, one foundation model can address any type of task. So it can be multiple tasks, but one single foundation models. So basically, also in case of foundation models, you need not write some specific statistical jargons or specific other things. You can just write in simple English some prompts. You can do some prompt tuning, you can do some fine tuning, or you can do some training from scratch. It goes to these foundation models, and you have some proprietary or third party data, and from there you get the response. So this is how it works. So basically, these are the some example use cases. I think we have already covered summarization, classification, content generation, extraction, and question answering. And these are some of the example use cases. In content generation, you can generate marketing briefs, you can generate job description, you can generate reports and presentation, etc. Extraction, you can mask the personal information, you can do some entity audits. In code generation, you can actually develop new code, you can do some app modernization, you can do some migration. In classification, you can do some routing of tickets, you can do what is positive and negative sentiment analysis, and there are multiple other things in the other areas. So these are some of the example use cases. And I talked about the different ways of training. Pre-training, we talked about that this is basically when you are developing the foundation models. Fine tuning, as I said, adapting the weight for the last layers to adapt output to a specific context. Prompt tuning is basically the giving the different example, and prompt engineering is how you give the prompts, how, in which way, in which particular English you should use, so that your model understand. For example, you are teaching a student. If you say different jargons and different acronyms to that particular student, he might not understand. But if you lucidly simply explain that, if you have to solve this particular problem, mathematical problem, this is step 1, this is step 2, and this is step 3. The student understand. Similarly, when you are giving prompt, you have to have that kind of a clarity given to the large language model or generative AI tool. For example, in ChatGPT, if you write a very complex grammatical sentence, ChatGPT will give you an answer which is not needed for your purpose. But if you give the prompt in a way which is very simple and give the clear understanding, and then the ChatGPT's response would be much better. So that is a prompt engineer job, that what kind of prompting I should give, that it will yield in a good result. So now coming to the generative AI or large language models problems. So there can be 12 such different problems. There can be bias because generative AI is pre-trained on various types of publicly available data. So it might have certain bias because those are publicly available and they have their particular response. So you cannot directly use the generative AI always. You have to also think about which particular LLM model is giving you better result. You can then tweak between, say, a GPT-4 or a Llama. Then can be a Mistral model, which is a open source model. So there is a link called huggingface.com. You can go to Hugging Face and you can find out what are the different large language models that exist, who is at the leaderboard for a particular type of problem. So there are comparisons for a particular specific type of problem, what kind of large language models work. So definitely generative AI has problems like hallucinations. If you ask a difficult problem to these different generative AI tools, it will give you answer because it is bound to answer. That is how it is built. But there can be nonsensical response which might not be useful for you. So that is why these few short prompts, this fine tuning, this prompt engineering are needed to get better response. And you also have to explain to the people. Suppose you are developing something with the help of generative AI, then you have to tell your customer or client that you cannot expect 100% accuracy. Okay, there are bound to be some problems with your output. With time, I can improve something using prompt tuning, using prompt engineering, using fine tuning, but it still there would be, say, 10-20% deviation from what is your desired output. So currently, any model you take, it is almost 80 to 90% on an average it will give. For some complex problems, it might be only 20-30% accurate. So you have to be and you have to ensure whether your particular problem is a specific generative AI problem. But for any type of problem, you can definitely take the help of generative AI, but it might not be always 100% accurate. It can be as low as 20-30%, and it can be as high as 95 to 100%. But it would depend on your specific use case, and there are ways to improve the accuracy. But for certain kind of problems, it might not still yield the 100% accuracy. LLMs are also being developed. You can understand this particular concept has came into existence for last couple of years. So it is going to develop. So there are concerns like security concerns like transparency. Definitely, these are some of the problems we are working with. So is this an example of hallucination? So there was a David Cox who has earned an undergraduate degree at Harvard University and PhD at MIT. But when this particular question was asked to the ChatGPT, it was giving response that he was born in UK. He passed undergraduate degree from University of Cambridge, although he has passed out from Harvard and MIT. So it found some Mr. Cox in the internet, and it was giving this reply. So it might not be always true. It might give you some response, but might not be always true. There are safety, privacy, legal issues. That is why companies like Apple, Goldman Sachs, Samsung, who are banning employees from using ChatGPT at work. They feel that their data uh, might be at risk. The OpenAI might steal their data, and then they can reuse it for their purpose. So there are these concerns. So how to improve your prompts? There are multiple ways. There should be completeness, there should be instruction, there can be questions through which you can improve your prompt. So these are the different guidelines. You should provide the context of the prompt, you should be specific, you should have a definitive intent, you should give some examples, you should give some positive and negative instruction, you should try chain of thought, adjust parameters. For example, trying chain of thought, what it is. So basically chain of thought is basically it should be given some certain instruction one by one, that first you do this, then you do that, and third you do that. For example, if you give a mathematical problem to ChatGPT, more often than not it will fail if it is a complex mathematical problem, because it does not understand how it should solve. But if you give the problem and along with that you give instruction in the prompt that first you should have a addition for this and this, then you should think about how, if it is doing it is in 10 days, how it can do it in 1 day. Then step 3 you should do this. If you give this kind of chain of prompts and chain of thought, then it will be able to deliver. So this encoder, there can be different types of models, LLM models, encoder, decoder only. So for example, GPT-3 or GPT-4 is a decoder only model. I'm not going in for the interest of time. So key aspect of the LLM, there are a couple of things is parameters and tokens. So parameters, I talked about the number of variables in the LLM's neural network, or the number of variables it has used to train itself. More parameters means more complex large language model. Token is every large language model has a token limitation, that you cannot go and use any type of uh, documents and ingest and ask is to kind of summarize or do any prompt engineering on top of that, because it has a limitation of input and output. If you want to generate say, and what is tokens? Token is basically a combination of a number of letters, a number of words used, and the spaces, etc. It is approximately 750 token, means it is using your so 1,000 words, meaning so the other way around. If it is 750 words, it is or close to 1,000 tokens. So if you have a document which is having say more than 5,000 words, most of the LLM models would fail. So even if you go to ChatGPT, you will see the similar thing. So GPT-4 is giving it now the 32,000 tokens, but for that you have to have a very high rated subscription. Only the companies can handle that, and most of the other models are having a less number of tokens. So you have to be cognizant of how many number of words you can use. That is why new methods like chunking has come. What is chunking? You break your document into different small groups and chunks, and can do your this usage of large language models on top of each chunks, and then you can stitch it back. So there are methodologies like that we are also working on. So these are some of the notable large language models, and what are the parameters in billions I talked about. Okay, so GPT 3.5 was actually 175 billions, and GPT-4 is 17000 in parameters in billions. And Google had Palm and Lambda, but Gemini AI they have come up with, which is using in the backend almost 1 trillion per parameters. I talked about the Llama model, which has been developed by Meta. IBM has also come up with a model called Granite. So there are multiple those kind of LLM models that exist. I wanted to end with one example using ChatGPT. I'll go into the example very fast. So suppose you have a problem uh, of this particular Python code. You want to understand what this particular code is doing. So I can just copy and paste this particular uh, problem and go to the ChatGPT window and ask, can you please translate this code into business language in plain English.
Excuse me, sir. Sir, your presentation is only visible, not the window of chat.
Oh, okay. Let me. Is it coming now?
Yeah, yeah.
Can you please translate this code into business language in plain English? I give this and then I paste this. It is explaining me that what in plain English what it is. So it is basically uh, a function named compute salary and calculates the gross salary. Within the function, it calculates the house rent allowance, it calculates the dearness allowance, the provident fund, and returns the calculated gross salary. So this way it explains. So a person who is not very conversant with that particular code and wants to know that what this particular code is talking about, you can very easily use your generative AI tool to do that. So this is just one example I thought of explaining. So with that, I'll end my discussion.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. That was really an wonderful and insightful session about the generative AI. And you have given an entire nutshell of generative AI, sir, in detail. So definitely the participants might have enjoyed this. With your permission, I will just pose the poll questions. The participants can take up the questions. After Q&A, we will be responding to the poll.
Sure.
Participants, the poll question is open now. You can take up. In between, we will be taking up the Q&A, which has been already received in the chat box. So the first question is, what do you think about the specific reason why Apple has pulled out of self-driving car, and also why the company Cruise has recalled almost all of its self-driving cars? This is the first question, sir.
Is it a question to me?
Yes, sir. Yes, yes. The Q&A from the participants, sir.
Okay.
The first question is, what do you think about the specific reason why Apple has pulled out of self-driving car, and also why the company Cruise has recalled almost all of its self-driving cars?
Right. So basically, there are a couple of challenges. So first of all, I'll talk about the investment. So definitely, a lots of investment that is needed. There were problems also while doing this kind of research. Suppose I can give one example which is coming to my mind, that there was a red sun. So it was a setting sun during the afternoon or evening time. The AI machine was trying to identify that. It thought it is a red signal. So, so you can understand why developing your cars, there would be some flaws, that how to differentiate setting sun versus a red signal. So whenever it was seeing a red setting sun, it was stopping the car, although it was supposed to go along. So there are some problems while developing this kind of autonomous vehicles. For example, you talk about the Indian roads. So we do not follow any lanes. There are cows and cattle everywhere at the road. So how this particular autonomous vehicle would be successful in India? Definitely, it can become successful, but it will need more time. If it is working fine in US in 2030, perhaps in by 2035 it should be available to India. So that is why there were problems with respect to this kind of various functionalities. That is why some companies had recalled cars, and Apple was not very successful with respect to the initial testing. That is why they had pulled out. But there are multiple. That is why I kept the example of Google. Google is still working on it. Tesla has already reached a very good level of level 3. It has crossed. It is doing researches at the level 4. So it will, there would be some companies who will go away, and there would be now new companies who would come up to in this bandwagon.
Yes, sir. That was really a thoughtful answer for the participant who asked the question. So, with your permission, shall we take one more question, sir?
Sure, sure.
Yeah.
So I would also like to highlight that there are multiple regulations are coming up. So I wanted to talk about a web series called Guilty Minds, which you can see in Amazon Prime Video. You might not be very good at Hindi, everyone, but you can uh, go through the subtitles. That it is on what would be the effect of AI or GenAI on human beings, and how the legal rules and regulation should be into place. There were plagiarism, like people were combining various music tones to prepare one particular music. So there would be rules for that. There is autonomous. There was one episode of the web series which is on these autonomous cars. So each one episode is on one particular problems of AI and GenAI, and what how we can handle legally. So there was a question of deep fake in the previous session. So definitely this kind of problem would bound to increase. So how we can do effect reduce that? We can reduce that through different legal norms. So basically, if you people do not have fear of, or fear of thought, then they will continue to do that, because your pictures are definitely available. For think about the celebrities, they have to give their pictures in the internet, in the Twitters and everywhere. So you cannot reduce that, but you can reduce this kind of crimes with very strong uh, legal rules and regulations. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's very interesting to note what are the things which is happening really. So the next question is, can you please explain what are the computational resources required for training and deploying Hugging Face generative AI models?
Yeah, so basically, if for any kind of generative AI models, you need to have GPUs. Simple CPUs would consume everything. So you have to have very good processing power, and that is why you need GPUs to run your models. When, especially if you are talking about at least any use case, a client, simple client use case, we are having different GPUs. So definitely you have to use instead of using any on-premise things like software in your desktop or anything, you should use the cloud options. That is why every cloud company has come up with their own generative AI system. If be it Google, be it AWS has its Bedrock. Then your Microsoft has taken over OpenAI. Google has their own Vertex AI, as well as they are coming up with Gemini and other things. So you need, it consumes so much of processing that it should be done better in a cloud environment.
Yeah, sir. True. Thank you, sir. Thank you for your answers for all the questions we have give us to you. And participants, due